In this lesson, you're going to improve your English reading skills. We're going to read a newspaper article together, and you're going to learn advanced vocabulary, advanced sentence structure, and complex grammar by reading this article with me. And at the end, you're going to improve your pronunciation because I'm going to read the article in full and you can practice along. And I'll also share the free lesson PDF right at the end so you can keep practicing all the concepts from this lesson. Are you excited? Welcome back to JForrest English Training. Of course, I'm Jennifer, and this is your place to become a fluent, confident English speaker. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to our article today. Let me read our headline: Why Gen Zers are growing up sober curious. What is this, Gen Zer? Well, this is a shortened form, and it stands for Generation Z. Generation Z. So this woman in the image is a representative of Generation Z because that has to do with your age range. So Generation Z is 11 to 26 years old. Are you Generation Z? Are you between 11 and 26 years old? Now, the generation before that were called millennials. Some also called them Generation X. It's the same. And their age range was 25 to 39. So are you in the millennial generation? I'm in the millennial generation. So Gen Z refers to Generation Z, people from that generation. Now notice they have this ERS. That's when we add onto a verb to make it a noun. For example, I could say, I dance. This is a verb, right? So this means I'm a dancer. I'm a dancer to make it a noun. So they're just turning this into a noun by adding that ERS. Why Gen Zers are growing up sober curious. Sober curious. What is sober? Sober, this is an adjective, and it is when you're not influenced by alcohol. So if you go to a party and you don't drink, well, then you are sober. The people who drink, you could say either they're not sober or they're drunk. They're drunk. Now, to be drunk, this is when you're influenced by alcohol to a large degree where your ability to speak, to think, to act is impaired, right? So I'll say to be impaired by alcohol. So this is when you should not drive a car, you should not go to work, you should not care for young children if you're drunk. So now you know what this headline means, so let's continue on. And I also want to point out that this is an article that a student recommended and shared the link for. So if there is an article you would like me to review, you can share the link to the article in the comment of the video. Okay, let me read this. A complex combination of outside pressures and information overload is driving young people to snub alcohol, far more than generations before them. So we know that one of the generations before them was the millennial generation. So a complex combination, an outside pressure is just a pressure from the outside. So from society, from your friends, from family, from work, those would be outside pressures. Inside pressures are pressures you put on yourself. I cannot make a mistake. That's not an outside pressure, that's an inside pressure, right? Information overload. This is when you receive too much information. So let's say you go onto YouTube and you want to learn how to use the verb to be. And you put in the verb to be and 20,000 results show. That's information overload. It's too much information. So this is actually considered a negative thing. Too much information. Too much information. So if you're in a meeting at work and someone is explaining how to do something, but they explain every little detail and it takes them a really long time, you might say that's information overload. I don't need that much information. Okay, so these outside pressures from your family, friends, work, and too much information overload is driving young people to snub alcohol. When something drives someone, it's another way of saying influence. So it's influencing young people to snub alcohol. Influencing. Now, what does this mean, to snub alcohol? This means to ignore. Now, honestly, I see this more commonly with people, because when you snub someone, you ignore them, but usually it's on purpose. So let's say you're at a party and you see your friend Maria, but Maria doesn't make eye contact with you. She doesn't come say hello. She doesn't talk to you. You might say, why did Maria snub me? Why did she ignore me, even though clearly she knew I was there? So for now, I would suggest using it with people because that is how I see it more commonly used. So why did Maria snub me at the party? You might feel like one of your coworkers or your boss is snubbing you, or even a family member is snubbing you. So they're ignoring you, but I would say to ignore someone on purpose, because you might accidentally ignore someone if it's a big party and you did not see that your friend was there. But in this case, Maria knows you're there. She's purposely ignoring you to snub. So I guess in the context of snub alcohol, it's saying that I know there is alcohol at a party or at a bar, like she's at a bar right now. There's alcohol, but I'm going to ignore it on purpose. I'm going to snub alcohol. But again, I suggest keeping it with people for now. Let's continue on. As a teenager, Lola's drinking went in cycles. There would be a night of heavy drinking, then a regretful day spent piecing the previous evening together. Next, a period of sobriety before the next big night out. Okay, I'll end it there. So to go in cycles, I think you can understand it's when you do something for a period of time and then you do something else for a period of time and then it repeats. The weather is a perfect example of cycles, or seasons, I should say. We have spring, then there's always summer, then fall, then winter. In North America, in your part of the world, it could be a very different cycle, but that's the cycle. So in this case, Lola's cycle is drinking heavily, regretting it, piecing the evening together, not drinking, and then repeating it, drinking heavily, regretting it, piecing it together, not drinking. And then she just repeats that over and over again. So a night of heavy drinking, drinking too much, a regretful day spent piecing the previous evening together. Now, when you try to piece something together, it's when you have individual pieces of information and you're trying to understand how it works together. So remember, we talked about when you're drunk, you're impaired by alcohol, right? So you might not remember something. So you remember going to the bar, talking to someone, getting a phone number, and doing one thing, but you don't know how all of those pieces of information work together. So you have to piece it together. Now, this is in the context of drinking, but I could use this if I'm trying to solve a problem. So I know there's a piece of information here, 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 and here, but I'm trying to understand how that information works together. So you might say, how can we piece this together? How can we take the individual pieces of information and make sense of them? So this means make sense of individual pieces of information. Now notice I said pieces of information because information is always singular in English. So if you want to show more than one piece of information, you have to make pieces plural, pieces of information. Information is always singular. So here, sobriety, this comes from the word, do you know? From the word sober. So remember, sober means not influenced by alcohol. So sobriety just refers to the category of being sober. So this is a period of being sober. And remember, this means not drinking alcohol. Let's continue on. But when the pandemic hit, Lola moved back in with her parents in London, and her drinking came to an abrupt halt. So a halt is when something just stops, a halt. So your car could come to a halt. You might slam on the brakes and your car will come to a halt. Notice the verb I'm using, come to a halt. Now, honestly, abrupt as an adjective just means very quickly or suddenly. But in my opinion, come to a halt already means quickly or suddenly. When I say my car came to a halt, it means my car stopped quickly and suddenly. So I don't actually think this adjective adds a lot of information, but that's what it means. I guess they're using it just to emphasize it. So this means quickly, suddenly. And then our expression is to come to a halt. And this means to stop. Let me share an example of how you could use this in a business context because it is quite common. You might say, our funding came to a halt. So maybe you were working on a project and you had funding, but then it just stopped. You no longer have that funding. It came to a halt. Remember, my verb is come. So here I'm conjugating it in the past simple. Our funding came to a halt. Or a good one could be our negotiation came to a halt. So we were negotiating something, and then it just stopped. It came to a halt. We could not agree. Our funding came to a halt, and we have to piece together what happened. We have to piece together why. That could be a good way to combine the two expressions. Let's continue on. Lockdown, she says, presented her with an opportunity to step back from ingrained habits and address her anxiety issues. Let's take a look at this phrasal verb here, to step back from. When you step back from something, it's when you are no longer involved in that something. And usually because you want to create some distance so you can think about it in a new way. So step back from a problem. We step back from a conflict. Problem are the two most common ones, really, because you want some distance so you can think about how to handle that in a different way. And in this case, her drinking, remember her drinking went in cycles. Her drinking might be the problem and she wants to create some distance from it so she can think about it differently. So to step back from, and I'm going to say a problem or even a conflict, is when you are no longer involved in the situation, so you can think about it differently. Get some distance from it. An ingrained habit is just when something is ingrained, it means it's in your permanent memory. You've done it so many times that it's just ingrained. You don't have to think about it. For example, when I'm driving my car, I don't have to think about turning on my turn signal to go left or right. It's just an ingrained habit. When I get to a stop, I turn on my indicator, just automatically. Ingrained habit. Let's continue on. The 22-year-old student is enjoying a different relationship with alcohol. She recently tried clubbing sober, remember, not under the influence of alcohol. Clubbing is when you go to a club or go to a bar for the purpose of dancing, socializing, and let's be honest, drinking is one of the main reasons as well. So that is an activity. Let's go clubbing tonight. Let's go clubbing tonight. Or you could say, let's go to a club tonight. A club is a nightclub. It's the location where you listen to music, you drink, and you dance. So let me highlight this for you. And although she still drinks, it's much less frequent. I'm not anti-drinking. If you're anti something, it means you oppose it. I'm anti-smoking, anti-drinking. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. So she's not anti-drinking. I just don't like getting drunk. Remember, to be drunk is when you're impaired by alcohol. You can't see properly, you can't talk, you can't walk because you're drunk. Or feeling ill the next morning, says Lola. I like going home safely and remembering the people I met, so sober nights work well for me. Let's continue on. Lola isn't an anomaly among her friends. So this one, listen to the pronunciation, anomaly, anomaly, anomaly. An anomaly is something or someone that's different from everything else. So it's suggesting that she isn't an anomaly. So what it's suggesting is she isn't different from all of her friends, which implies that her friends are also sober curious. They're curious about not drinking alcohol when they go clubbing. Okay, she isn't an anomaly. If it said Lola is an anomaly, it would mean that all of her friends drink. They drink when they go out. She's the only one. So an anomaly is different from the rest. But remember, they're using it in the negative. Isn't an anomaly. She says all have been drinking less since the pandemic, and she feels no judgment from her peers when not drinking, so they support her. Friends who haven't limited their drinking as much as me think it's cool when people go out sober, so her friends support her. She explains it's a you do you mentality. You do you. It's kind of a popular catchphrase right now. It's like saying, whatever your preferences are, I support you. So let's say you love eating meat, but your friend is a vegetarian and doesn't eat meat. So when you go to a restaurant, You say to your friend, oh, you do you, which means it's fine with me if you don't want to eat meat. If you do want to eat meat, it doesn't matter. You do you. It's just a catchphrase. Some of these catchphrases are short-lived, which means they don't last very long. But right now, this is a pretty common, popular catchphrase. So you can use this when someone says, oh, do you mind if I, is it okay if I, and you want to let them know that you are happy with whatever they decide to do. You can say, you do you, you do you. It's a you do you mentality where people are respectful of your choices. I guess that's a nice way of summarizing what this expression means, when people are respectful of your choices, whether you're protecting your mental health or you just don't fancy it. Experimenting with alcohol and drinking to excess. To excess in this context, it just means too much, drinking too much, getting drunk. When you drink too much is another way of saying getting drunk. Has long been seen as a rite of passage. A rite of passage is something that is considered a necessary part of getting to the next stage of your life. So maybe a rite of passage would be when you go to your prom. In North American culture, we have big ceremonies when we complete our final year of high school and we go to a prom. That's a rite of passage. Everybody goes to the prom when they graduate from high school. So it's considered just a ceremony that you must do. So in this sense, it's not a positive thing. They're saying drinking excessively, getting really drunk was considered something you have to do in order to get to adulthood. At least in Western cultures, from an early age, often before the legal age refers to when you are legally allowed to drink alcohol. Now, the legal age can vary depending on where you live. In the US, the legal age is 21 years old. So this is when you can go to a store and legally purchase alcohol, or you can go to a restaurant, a bar, and you can order a drink. If you're 20 years old and you go to a club, you cannot buy alcohol legally. You can do it illegally, but you can't do it legally. Alcohol is embraced as a social lubricant. In this sense, embrace means just accepted. All people say, yeah, it's just alcohol. It's what kids do. They drink. It's embraced as a social lubricant, a way to have fun, make friends, escape day-to-day realities. Few professional or social events are without some form of alcohol. That is definitely true in North American culture. I don't know if that's true in your culture. I'd be interested to know. I'm sure the other students would be as well. So please share your perspective in the comments. If you go to a social event or a professional event, would it be common to drink alcohol? So Gen Zers, remember those are people, 11 to 26 years old. Gen Zers are taking it slow as they enter adulthood, either by not drinking at all, being sober, or drinking less often, not getting excessively drunk, and in less quantity than older generations. Remember, our older generation is the millennials, also known as Generation X, which is 25 to 39. So that's our article. Very interesting, actually. It'd be interesting to know your perspective about drinking in your culture, the difference of generations as well. Feel free to share that in the comments. Now what I'll do is I'll read the article from start to finish so you can focus on my pronunciation and you can practice along with me. So let's do that now. Why Gen Zers are growing up sober curious. A complex combination of outside pressures and information overload is driving young people to snub alcohol, far more than generations before them. As a teenager, Lola's drinking went in cycles. There would be a night of heavy drinking, then a regretful day spent piecing the previous evening together. Next, a period of sobriety before the next big night out. But when the pandemic hit, Lola moved back in with her parents in London, and her drinking came to an abrupt halt. Lockdown, she says, presented her with an opportunity to step back from ingrained habits and address her anxiety issues. Now, the 22-year-old student is enjoying a different relationship with alcohol. She recently tried clubbing sober, and although she still drinks, it's much less frequent. I'm not anti-drinking, I just don't like getting drunk or feeling ill the next morning, says Lola. I like going home safely and remembering the people I met, so sober nights work well for me. Lola isn't an anomaly among her friends. She says all have been drinking less since the pandemic, and she feels no judgment from her peers when not drinking. Friends who haven't limited their drinking as much as me think it's cool when people go out sober, she explains. It's a you do you mentality where people are respectful of your choices, whether you're protecting your mental health or just don't fancy it. Experimenting with alcohol and drinking to excess has long been seen as a rite of passage into adulthood, at least in Western cultures. From an early age, often before the legal age, alcohol is embraced as a social lubricant, a way to have fun, make friends, and escape day-to-day realities. Few professional or social events are without some form of alcohol. But Gen Zers are taking it slow as they enter adulthood, either by not drinking at all or drinking less often and in less quantity than older generations. Amazing job with this lesson. I hope you enjoyed the newspaper article. If you did, please share your thoughts in the comments below and practice using some of your new vocabulary or sentence structure in the comments as well. And you can look in the description of this video to the link where you can download the free lesson PDF. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, JForrestEnglish.com, and download your free speaking guide. In this guide, I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. And until next time, happy studying!